everyone, welcome to ArtSeawith Mote, where we turn trash into treasure. Today we're going to be making something that combines two of my favorite things, which is the ocean, of course, and music. So we are going to be making a Guitarfish guitar, and I'm going to show you another way to make this as well, which is a cute little pufferfish guitar. So it's pretty easy, and it's really easy to make your own version of this depending on which animal you would like to create. Now, guitarfish don't make noise, but they are a really cool animal that looks like a combination of a shark tail and a ray head. So they're actually considered a ray. They're in the family Rhinobatidae, rhinos for nose in Greek, and batos or batidae for ray. So it looks like a combination, but technically it's classified as a ray. They're also known as shovel-nose sharks. So for this craft, what you need is a tin can. Any size will do. That will change the sound that your guitar is going to make. You will also need some tape. Again, any kind will do. I'm using duct tape just because that's what I had. And then some rubber bands. And I like to use the ones, because I save everything, these are the ones from produce that you get. So you can use those or whatever you have laying around the house. You might need some paper, just some scrap paper, glue of course, scissors, a marker if you'd like, pencil if you need to draw, and then if you want to make that pufferfish, you'll need some toothpicks, and I like to use a lemon bag or a lime bag. Lots of fun crafty purposes for these, and I'll show you how I used it later on. Alright, so let's get started. First we're going to use our tin can for the body. Now I mentioned that guitarfish have a very strange body, and it looks like they have a ray head and a shark tail. So this is going to be the body kind of in between the head and the tail. So again, you can choose any can you'd like. I think this is from tomatoes. I use my cat food can for crafts. And then what you're going to want to do is test out the rubber bands. So you're going to take a rubber band, and basically what you're going to do is stretch it over the top of the can. There's not necessarily an easy way to do this, just see what works for you. And sometimes they'll break, so you want to test the durability of them too before you get started. And depending on the thickness or the tension, the stretchiness of that rubber band, you will get a different sound. So I like to test it out first. Ooh, not quite exactly what I want, so I'm going to try and stretch it out a little bit more. There we go. So you can make it tighter. That will make the tone a little bit higher. And if you have it a little less tense, a little less stretchy, that'll make it a little bit lower. But again, it depends on the thickness of the rubber band and how big your can is. So I feel like that's a good sound for me. You can add as many or as few rubber bands as you'd like. But here's the thing, you do want them to be somewhat spaced out, and you do want them to be spaced out and able to be accessed on the back, and I'll show you why in just a bit. Cool, so I have my rubber bands set up onto my can. Now I'm just going to take some tape and I'm going to secure them where they are. One, so that they don't break. Two, so that that sound that I want for my guitar strings is going to remain consistent. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little bit of duct tape here. I'm going to tape it right up at the top, okay? And it doesn't matter what it looks like because you're going to cover over it. On my example that I did first, I actually used duct tape all around the body, but you can use paper, you can paint it, whatever you feel like. So actually, you know what, I am maybe just going to use duct tape all around. So get some bigger pieces here. But generally, if you're using a 14.5-ounce size can, just a normal can, the length of one sheet of paper this way should make it around. That's what I used for my cat food container. All right, so let's get taping around here. Okay, so we are all taped up. Now, if you wanted to make that pufferfish version, you could use a colored duct tape or a different color paper. Totally up to you, right? You're the artist. So we've got our tin can taped up now. And the next thing we want to do is figure out what we want our body to look like, the head and the tail. And so what we can do is trace out some fins and a tail and the shape of the head, which of course is like a guitar. That's why it's called a guitarfish. So I've already traced mine out here, so I'm going to cut it out. But you might want to refer to a picture just for guidance, or if you're a really awesome freehand drawer, go ahead and just trace it out and just cut it out. That's up to you. So I'm actually going to make an Atlantic guitarfish, which we have here in Florida, and they have a little bit of white freckling on the top of their brownish grayish body. So I didn't have a white crayon, so I'm just using chalk. You can use whatever. If you have a chalk marker or paint, up to you. So I'm just going to create some freckling on the top of my guitarfish's head. So I've got a head, 2 fins, and those fins look very much like the wings of a ray. And then I've got a body with 2 dorsal fins. Remember, those are the ones on the top. They have 2 dorsal fins, and that signature shark tail. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab my scissors and cut out my shapes. And I mentioned that guitarfish don't make noise in the ocean, but lots and lots of animals do. In fact, it's actually pretty noisy down there. We might be familiar with dolphins' clicks and whistles, or a humpback whale's song, but it's not just the mammals that make noise. Animals use different kinds of sounds to communicate to others in the same species, or they might mark their territory, let others know that this is my space and stay out. They might do it to scare away predators or to attract a mate. So there's lots of different kinds of sounds that are made in the ocean, and a coral reef actually is one of the loudest places you can go underwater. And a lot of animals that start out as plankton, as teeny tiny microscopic organisms floating around, they actually listen for those sounds, and when they hear them, they know they're in the right spot for them to start their life. All right, so I'm cutting out the dorsal fins here. Get rid of that extra paper. So some of those sounds on a coral reef that you might hear are snapping shrimp. Lots and lots of fish make noise too. You wouldn't expect it, but they do. Even groupers make a little grunting noise. And we study that actually at Mote. Figure out what's going on under the water, what sounds are happening that we might not hear from a human's perspective. Okay, so I have my tail, I have my 2 fins, and I have my head. Now, for the head and the fins, you don't have to put the dots or your decoration, whatever you want to put on there, on both sides. It just needs to be on one side because that's pretty much all you're going to see. For the tail though, you're going to be able to see both sides, so I'm just going to freckle up my other side here. Perfect. Okay, get rid of my extra paper, and now I'm going to attach them. So I'm going to bend the end of my tail, oops, so just like this, bend the end, and I will also bend my fins along this long edge. Okay, I'm gonna bend it so, let's see, how did I do it last time? Yeah, I'm gonna bend it from the decorated side down. Okay, so the decorated side is gonna be on the opposite side of the bent part. Okay, like this. See, it's bent on the back there. Okay, I'm gonna do another one. And again, depending on what animal you're making, you decide the best way. For the head, we don't have to bend it. We're just gonna glue it right on the top there. So when you're placing your head or your fins or eyes or whatever you're gonna use for your instrument animal, make sure that if it has a tail, you want the rubber bands to be vertical, up and down, because you're gonna slip that little tail kind of in between the rubber bands on the back. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So for my puffer fish, see how it goes right in between those little rubber bands there. Perfect. Okay, so doesn't matter which way up and down, just wherever you'd like. Got my hot glue gun ready to go, and I'm just gonna glue my head on. Okay, so we're gonna hold it there for a second to dry. Remember, as always, ask for permission when you are using hot glue, because it can be a little bit dangerous. And actually, I probably would have put my head a little bit closer to the edge of the can. That's okay. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then right along the side, right here, I'm going to glue on my fins. There we go. All right, so, and if you have a long edge of your fins, it's a little bit hard to tell here, but I like putting the longer edge towards the back. All right, so we're gonna put some fins on here and do the same thing on the other side. Everything makes noise, even the glue gun. There we go. All right. Just gonna hold that down for a minute. Perfect. So now we've got our head and the side fins of our guitarfish. And you can put the tail on now, or you can wait till later. That's up to you. I'm just gonna get mine on now so I get the full picture of what my guitarfish is gonna look like. And so basically I'm just gonna put some glue in between those rubber bands. I've already bent my tail, so it is ready to go. And also, depending on the size of can that you're using, you can make your tail and fin and head proportionate to the body size. All right, remember that long part of the shark fin goes up top. That's actually an ancient, very ancient tail. Lots of prehistoric swimming animals back in the day had a tail just like that. All right, so we're gonna glue that on. It's coming together. All right, perfect. And you don't have to use hot glue. I'm just using it for the sake of time. All right, so we've got our guitarfish general body shape going on. We've got our strings for our guitar. And now we have to make some additional details. So I did use some googly eyes on my example because that's what I had. But you can think of some creative ways to make eyes. If you did our last ArtSeawith Mote, the bottle squid, you will notice that Miss Dana used bottle caps and pennies. So whatever you have at home, that's the beauty of turning trash into treasure. You use what you got, right? So we are going to place these eyes just on the sides of the head right there. And I've got some pretty ridiculous googly eyes that are much bigger than is what is proportionally appropriate for this shark, or sorry, for this guitarfish. Lots of people call them sharks. Technically they are not, but they are related. They're in the group Elasmobranchs, which is sharks, rays, and skates, which is a pretty close cousin of a ray. All right, there we go. Ah, it's so ridiculous. All right, so here are our guitarfish eyes. And the cool thing about guitarfish is they can hang out on the ocean floor and they don't have to move like lots of other obligate swimmer sharks. So the reason they can do that is because they have these things called spiracles, which are basically like little pumps behind their eyes. And they can make sure that water is flowing over their gills at all times, so they're still be able to capture that oxygen. So on my guitar shark, it's gonna look like little eyebrows, but I'm just gonna draw some little spiracles there. And at this point, you are ready to decorate your shark in any other way that you would like. Pretty simple though. Here's our guitarfish guitar. Awesome. And so I did mention that you wanted to keep this backside exposed and accessible because if you're not a guitar person, you're more of a percussionist, you can actually use it as kind of like a drum. Although sometimes, depending how stretched your rubber bands are, if I snap it really lightly, so that's really hard, really lightly, and depending on where you hold it, you can actually hear a little bit of a sound too. So we've got our drum on the back and our guitar on the front. So I'm going to show you real quickly the additional steps that I took to make a puffer fish, and you get to choose whatever that you want to make. So for the puffer fish, I mentioned that I used a lemon bag. So if you notice, the lemon bag makes what looks like scales. And so you can either put that lemon bag right on top of your colored paper or paint or whatever you're using. Or another cool thing to do is you can lay that lemon bag on top of a piece of paper and actually use a sponge and paint to create a scaled look. So I also used googly eyes for this one, and then I just used toothpicks for the spines. You can use pipe cleaners if you have them, or whatever you have laying around. I also had a couple of zip ties, not zip ties, twist ties from bread bags. You can use that too, cut those up and put them on there. And I just cut out the shapes of the fins with scissors and glued that lemon bag on top. Okay, so here's what this one sounds like. And the back, more of a percussion instrument. And that's pretty much it. So here are your guitarfish guitar and pufferfish guitar and drum. I hope you had fun crafting with us today. If you'd like to do this project, we'd love to see your creations, so you can tag us on social media using the hashtag ArtSeawith Mote. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.